Our neighbor invited us to a block party. Everyone else already knew something about us. The invitation was handwritten on cream-colored cardstock, slipped under our door at 6 a.m. My wife Priya picked it up and smiled, said it was sweet that the neighbors wanted to welcome us after 3 months. I should have noticed that everyone on the street was already outside when we walked over, standing in clusters, watching us approach. Harold handed me a beer and said, "Glad you could make it. We've been waiting." His wife Linda guided Priya toward a group of women near the grill. I tried to follow, but Harold's hand clamped down on my shoulder. "Let the ladies talk. We've got questions for you." The way he said it made my stomach tighten, but I told myself I was being paranoid. The neighborhood had seemed so perfect when we moved in. Quiet streets, well-maintained lawns, the kind of place where people still waved at each other from their driveways. The men formed a loose circle around the cooler. Gerald from 2 houses down, Phil from across the street, and a younger guy named Damien I'd seen jogging past our house every morning. They were all staring at me with expressions I couldn't read. Gerald cleared his throat. "So, Nathan, what exactly do you do for work?" I told him pharmaceutical sales. The same thing I'd told everyone since we moved in. Phil laughed, this short, ugly sound that made the hair on my neck stand up. "That's interesting. My sister works at Meridian Pharma. She's never heard of you." I felt my face flush, but tried to stay composed. I explained that it was a large company, that not everyone knew everyone. Damien pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile. "Your profile says 6 years at Meridian. My buddy in HR ran your name through the system. You've never worked there. Not one day." I tried to stay calm, but my hands were starting to shake. Harold stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the barbecue smoke on his shirt. "Your wife told Linda you paid cash for your house, $400,000 in cash. Nobody in pharmaceutical sales has that kind of money lying around." I said we had savings, investments, family money. Gerald shook his head slowly, like a disappointed teacher. "My brother-in-law is a detective with the state police. He ran your plates last week, just out of curiosity. Your car is registered to a Nathan Whitmore in Delaware who died in 2019. The beer in my hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy. I looked toward Priya, but she was surrounded by women, and Linda was showing her something on a tablet. Even from across the yard, I could see Priya's face had gone completely white. I started walking toward her, but Phil blocked my path, his arms crossed over his chest. "We're not done talking, Nathan, or whatever your real name is." Linda's voice carried across the yard, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is the article from the Indianapolis Star, dated 3 years ago. Your husband's real name is Daniel Mercer. He embezzled $2.3 million from a children's hospital charity fund before disappearing the night before his trial." Every head in the yard turned toward me. The music someone had been playing stopped. I dropped my beer and it shattered against the concrete, but nobody flinched. They'd been expecting this moment. The children's hospital had been raising money for a new pediatric oncology wing, and I'd siphoned funds for 18 months before anyone noticed. Kids with cancer. That's who I'd stolen from. Looking at the faces around me, I knew they'd seen the photographs of those children that had run with every news story about my case. I turned to run toward my house, toward my car, toward anywhere but here. Damien was already behind me, blocking the path to the street. Harold had his phone out, the screen showing an active 911 call that had been running for at least 10 minutes. "We've had a U.S. Marshal parked on our street for 2 weeks, Gerald said, his voice cold and steady. "They were waiting for confirmation before they moved in. We just provided it." I looked at Priya one more time. She was staring at me like I'd transformed into a monster right before her eyes. Linda had her arm around her shoulders, protective, like Priya was the victim here. Maybe she was. I told her I was a widower when we met, that my first wife had died in a car accident. She'd married a fiction, built a life with a ghost. A black SUV pulled up at the end of the driveway, tires crunching on gravel. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, followed by 2 uniformed officers with their hands resting on their holsters. Harold walked toward them and pointed directly at me. "That's Daniel Mercer. Positive identification confirmed by his wife and corroborated by multiple sources." The marshal approached slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. "Mr. Mercer, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and failure to appear for trial. You have the right to remain silent." He turned me around and the handcuffs clicked into place, cold metal biting into my wrists. As they walked me to the SUV, I passed the grill where burgers were still cooking, the folding tables covered with potluck dishes. The whole neighborhood had come together for this. They'd planned a party around my arrest. The children's hospital recovered $1.8 million from offshore accounts I thought no one could trace. Priya filed for annulment the same week my trial began, testifying that she'd had no knowledge of my true identity. The neighbors threw her a welcome party 3 months after my sentencing. Gerald's wife helped her find a job. Linda watched her apartment when she traveled. The community that had orchestrated my downfall embraced her completely once I was gone. I'm serving 12 years in a federal facility now.